And in the first instance, I'm just going to ask for apologies for absence for today, please.
Just one thank you. It's Councillor Anthony Hunt has given his apologies and Councillor Joanne Gowden is substituting for him.
Thank you, Jane. We'll move on to the first substantive item on today's agenda then, and that is the election of the chairperson for the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee for the municipal year 25-26. Can I please seek nominations for the position of chair? Councillor Thomas.
Would like to nominate Councillor Mary-Ann Brocklesby.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that?
I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Morgan. Do I have a show of hands to support that, please? Thank you very much. I will hand over to Councillor Brocklesby. Congratulations on your second year as chair of the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee.
We now continue with the elections, with the election of deputy chairpersons for the committee for 2025-2026. Do I have any nominations, please?
Can I nominate Councillor Anthony Hunt?
Do I have a seconder?
If I could second Anthony, yep.
Could I have a show of hands, please?
That's also carried. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we have a second vice chair. Do I have a nomination, please?
Councillor Stanton.
Can I nominate Councillor Hugh Thomas, please?
Do I have a second?
And I'll second too. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a show of hands, please?
I think that's carried, Chair. Carried.
Okay. Do we have any declarations of interest as we move on to the main body? Other than those that are taken as standing. Okay. I'll move on to item 5, minutes of the last meeting. Those draft minutes are page 5. Are we agreed? Could I have a second? Thank you. Can we have a show of hands, please?
Carried, Chair.
Thank you. That brings us on to item 6, appointment of monitoring officer and appointments subcommittee update.
Yeah,
the report of the.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just wait for the relevant individuals to just step outside for a few seconds, if that's okay. So if you are impacted by this report, if you could just step outside, that would be great. Okay,
Julian?
Yeah, just a short matter, Chair, on the minutes of the last meeting. I was down with a question mark as to when I departed. I think I stayed for all the items that were not exempt, which I think was down to item 13. So it's just a technical correction, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. That is correct. I remember you leaving. We can make it.
I'll note those. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So good morning again, everybody. So this report is in 3 main parts. It's a report of Cardiff Capital Region's appointments subcommittee, and it's to set out the appointment of an interim strategic director for legal and governance and a statutory monitoring officer role to replace Jane LaGrua on a locum basis. The second part of the report deals with the fixed term secondment for the Director of Regional Growth. And the third part of the report deals with an interim duties payment that I've taken under delegated decision in respect of the head of operations at CCR Energy. Members will see in paragraph 3 onwards, setting out the rationale in the first instance for the interim appointment of a new Director of Legal and Governance. As you will all be aware, we've had 3 unsuccessful attempts at trying to recruit to this position, and we're very pleased that we've now been able to secure Mark Watkins on an interim basis on the locum arrangement that I spoke about. And we continue to work now with a specialist recruitment agency to try and get the appropriate marketing and the pack design to go back out to advert again for the full-time permanent post. So that work is already underway And I just want to say, really, from a personal perspective, that I talk about replacing Jane as if that is possible. But yeah, Jane has put in a very significant shift for us over the last sort of 14, 15 months. So to put my personal thanks on record for her superb support and graft during that entire period. So paragraph 7 onwards then deals with the need to increase capacity at the senior level in the Cardiff Capital Region team more widely. And that's through a secondment opportunity around the Director of Regional Growth. I've kind of shaved off the Deputy Chief Executive component of this role for now until things settle and we can see what is needed next. So that is very much a short-term secondment opportunity that will enable some interim capacity, and again will be reported back, as we do with all of our senior appointments, to the next meeting of the Corporate Joint Committee in July. And then the third aspect of the report, as I've said, is a delegated decision to award an interim additional duties payment, an honorarium, if you like, to the existing head of operations at CCR Energy. Again, a huge amount going on with that project, so right and proper that we reflect the responsibilities and liabilities that come at this time, and the need to make sure that they're all covered off sufficiently on an interim basis. So those three are very clearly set out. The recommendations are in paragraph 2 of the report. Chair, commend this report to you. I'm very happy to take any questions. Also, we have 2 members of the appointments subcommittee in the room today, so I'm sure they will join me in taking any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have any questions? I can't see any. Okay, we have, as Kelly said, we have a recommendation to note on the action to approve an honorarium payment to CCR Energy's head of operations, and we have 2 recommendations to approve. I'll take each one separately. Recommendation 1 asks us to approve the appointment of Mark Watkins as Director of Legal and Governance and Monitoring Officer. Do I have a mover, a proposer? Yeah, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Could I have a show of hands, please? I think that's carried.
Carried, Chair.
Recommendation 2 asks us to approve the internal advertisement of a 12-month secondment opportunity for the post of Director of Regional Growth. Do I have a mover? Thanks. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Could I have a show of hands, please?
That's carried, Chair.
Before we move on behalf of the whole of the CJC, I would like to offer our profound thanks to Jane. She has been a model of measured advice and thinking and support during what has been a very difficult time, challenging, but one which has allowed us to find a pathway through, which will benefit the whole our region and allow us to move forward and do what we need to do, which is to bring the dividends forward from our investments. So that's a very woolly way of saying we're going to miss you and good luck in your new job, and thank you very much for all the work that you've done.
Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely, and I'd like to second.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to swap seats with Mr. Watkins now. Thank you.
And can we call him back in? As the next item on the agenda belongs to him. Welcome back, Mark, and congratulations. We now have item 7, confirmation of members and substitute members of the CJC and allocation of portfolios for 2025 to 26. And I'm going to hand over to you for your first job, as it were.
Screen. Item 7, Chair.
Yeah.
So yes, So, members, this is an annual report brought before you, and Corporate Joint Committee is asked in this instance to note the committee's membership for the forthcoming municipal year, note each authority's nominated substitute member, and approve the member portfolios also for the municipal year, and to nominate members to chair and deputy chair to the Regional Transport Subcommittee and the Strategic Development Subcommittee, respectively. That was the extent of my introduction. Sorry.
Okay. Do we have any comments or observations?
Just move that we note, Chair.
Yeah. We have 3 recommendations, which I'm going to take together. It's to approve the member portfolios for the municipal year, and nominate members to chair and deputy chair for the Regional Transport Subcommittee and the Strategic Development Subcommittee, respectively. So before I take these recommendations, could I have a nomination for the chair of the Regional Transport Subcommittee?
Chair, can I nominate Councillor Andrew Morgan?
Second that.
Could I have a show of hands, please? Could I just check for my own understanding, Kelly? The deputy chair, is that done by the committee themselves or done here?
It is, but I think as it's set out here, Chair, it's your appointment, so you can endorse that here as well.
Okay. Do I have a nominee for the deputy chair?
Can I nominate Liz Burnett, please?
Second that.
Thank you. Could I have a show of hands, please? Carried. So for the chair of the Strategic Development Subcommittee, could I have a nomination, please? John.
I nominate Councillor Liz Burnett.
Could I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Could I have a show of hands? I believe that's passed. So could I also have a mover to approve the member portfolios for the municipal year? Thanks, Hugh. Could I have a seconder? Thanks, Sean. Could I have a show of hands, please? I believe that passed. Carried.
Yeah.
That brings us to item 8, appointments to subcommittees and advisory boards for the coming year. That's over to you again, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Putting this on my screen. So again, members, this is an annual report where the Corporate Joint Committee is asked to receive nominations and make appointments to CJC subcommittees and advisory boards, and then to authorise myself as monitoring officer to make appointments to any remaining vacancies thereon. And we have 2 principal recommendations. Would you like to read those out, Chair, or would you like me to read those out? Okay. Me? Okay, so the Corporate Joint Committee is asked to 1, receive nominations and make appointments to each of the subcommittees and advisory boards established for forthcoming municipal year, and 2, authorise the monitoring officer to make appointments to any vacancies and report any such appointments to the next meeting of the CJC for information purposes only.
Could I have a mover, please?
Julian has his hand.
Julian, sorry.
Sorry, Chair, it's me again. Yeah, just going back to item 7, I did have my hand up during that item, just to say that this is my last year working in the National Park Authority, and it's very likely that I will not be available for the whole of this year. probably standing down at the AGM, which is on the 27th of June. So I'd just like to thank members of the CJC for their support over the last year or so. And it's been a pleasure to be with you. And it's probably quite likely that I won't be attending next time. And obviously, after our AGM, we will notify the CJC of who it is that's now going to be both the representative and the deputy representative for the authority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian. I apologise for not seeing your hand. I think I need a new pair of glasses because I'm peering at the screens and not seeing the hands. We're sorry to lose you. You've done sterling work on the CJC and really made some very thoughtful contributions, which has allowed us as fellow leaders to really think through the decisions we're taking. I'm sure your successor will try to do the same, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and hopefully we'll continue to engage productively in the region. It's a great pleasure to be involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. So do I have a mover for the two recommendations under item 8? I could have a seconder, please.
Second.
Could I have a show of hands?
Those that I can see have got their hands up.
I think it's passed. That brings us to item 9. You again, Mark. You'll get to rest. So, the programme of CJC meetings for 2025 to 26. This is fairly straightforward, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. Again, a regular annual report, summary of which is that the Corporate Joint Committee is invited to approve the programme of ordinary meetings for the forthcoming municipal year. The recommendations before committee are as follows, and they are twofold. Corporate Joint Committee is asked to 1. Approve the programme of ordinary meetings of CJC for 25-26 municipal year set out in paragraph 4 of the report, and then secondly to approve the provisional programme of ordinary meetings of subcommittees for the 25-26 municipal year as set out in paragraph 5 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have, as Mark says, 2 very clear recommendations. Do I have a mover? Thanks, John. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Could I have a show of hands, please?
Looks like it's carried, Chair.
That's carried. That brings us on to item 10, the Strategic Equality Plan Annual Report and Gender Pay Gap Report. And I believe that's over to you, Colin.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just speak to the report for through some of the key items in the report and then take questions afterwards. So reason for the report, seek comment and approval of our inaugural Strategic Equality Plan Annual Report for Cardiff Capital Region. From paragraph 3 onwards, you'll see the background as we've established as a new public body. We published our first Strategic Equality Plan last year that covered the years 2024 to 28. So this annual report, which is appended, and the accompanying Gender Pay Gap Report and Action Plan, they were finalised in March 2025 in line with our annual reporting requirements. So the work to date that we outline in paragraph 7 onwards, the approach that we took to our Strategic Equality Plan, we had 4 regional objectives and 3 organisational objectives. And I'll break down with each of those the progress we've made, but across each of those, and given this is a 4-year plan, we've made good progress across the first year. There's been strong work with, for example, CCR's impact investment framework, working with our investment board, for example, building on the outputs, the outcomes, the impacts, and the measures to ensure that our monitoring capabilities enable us to provide the additional levels of insight needed Also, we've had updates to the responsible investment policy, the introduction of an ESG scorecard, and this has ensured more meaningful implementation across investments going forwards. All of the other actions at a regional level are either currently ongoing or in progress, but to note that they are on track to be delivered within the 4-year lifespan of the plan. One other item to note that following CCR becoming a standalone corporate entity, we worked towards and received our real living wage accreditation during the summer of 2024. This feels like a necessary first step on the journey to us looking at the feasibility of becoming a real living wage region. In terms of the organisational objectives, we outline progress against those in paragraphs 13 onwards. So again, we've made good progress against these objectives. There has been some limitations given the capacity restraints of key supporting functions. So in terms of HR, bringing on board a new strategic director for resources last year and the upcoming appointment of a head of people and culture. It's worth noting as well, we're carrying a fairly hefty vacancy rate around about the 40% level, which we're working hard to address. But one of the things that it does need addressing as a point of urgency is the gender pay gap. So given our relatively low headcount, but that sits at 24.07% of the mean hourly percentage gap. We have an action plan, which we are addressing as a priority. That sets out the areas which we will address and have already started to address within 2025-26, which is, we've seen that pay gap reduce already. And also in terms of ensuring that female employees representation in the upper quartiles of the organisation is significantly increased. Finally, in terms of implementation and next steps, that's paragraph 23 onwards. So as highlighted within the report, key areas where actions required are marked out for 25-26. They'll be taken across the policy and impact team, but across the whole organisation, and we're working towards that. With that, Chair, I'd move towards the recommendations that the South East Wales CJC approve the plan and the gender pay gap action plan.
Thank you, Colin. I'm really pleased that we now have this reporting and a plan in place. I think we've noticed in past meetings of the board that the gender pay gap is something that we need to look at, but I feel more confident that we have a route through which we can do that and to be held accountable for our obligations under the Equality Act. Do we have any comments from the board?
Hand up on screen.
Please speak.
Councillor Batou.
John, did you see who's on that?
Councillor Batou.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, firstly, I welcome the report and move the recommendation. But I would just like to comment on the Appendix 1 with the item 3 is begin scoping the feasibility of becoming a real living wage region, which I welcome. And one of the actions there is to form a Cardiff Capital Region Living Wage Steering Group, 25-26. So look, I welcome that, and the sooner that can be set up, the better, and we can progress with that piece of work. Thank you.
Do we have a time frame, Colin?
We're recruiting against some posts at the moment, Chair, which will allow us to set that up, and we hope summer of the 25-26 financial year.
Councillor Petruni, I believe you had your hand up, Dimitri.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Colin, for that. Just a couple of questions, if I may, Chair. One, it says on Appendix 1 again that we're going to be launching the Regional Economic Wellbeing Data Dashboard. When do we hope to launch that? Is my first question, Chair.
Councillor Petruni, we've been working with our Regional Growth Board. So again, we're looking at around about the summer. We've identified a route to procure this. So we'll need to work through that to begin with, but we've allocated a budget, and so we'll go through procurement. We're taking advice from the Regional Growth Board because we have 2 or 3 data specialists, including Professor Robert Huggins. So we'll work with them to do that, and we'll provide an update at the next CJC meeting.
Thank you, and Chair. Just follow up on that. Will that dashboard, because it makes reference to here, which I completely agree with, looking at social mobility, enhancing it across the region. Does that work include what measures we will undertake to understand if we're making any impact in the social mobility space across the region?
Does indeed, Councillor Bertrini. It's a great point, because we're looking at last year we produced an economic wellbeing report, and that economic wellbeing report was essentially we'd engage specialists to look at what measures would really matter, what measures could we baseline against as a region. So that's moving way beyond the measures that one might currently think about, GVA, other economic measures, into social mobility measures. So yes, I look forward to bringing that back. As part of the procurement for the dashboard, those measures will be a core part of it, because we need to understand, one, how we capture them, two, can we do it routinely, and three, how frequently would they be measured as well to be meaningful.
Thanks for that, Spons. Just to emphasise the importance of this work, Chair, so CCR can demonstrate its impact on real people's lives and making them better. And this social mobility work is the key to understanding where we are as a region and where we need to work harder to improve people's lives across the space. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bertuni. I couldn't agree more with you. I think you want to come in, Hugh?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just on a slightly different angle, which is firstly is to welcome the Real Living Wage accreditation. I know we've been talking about that for some time, so great to get that done last summer. Just with regards the action around establishing a regional living wage steering group, could I suggest or ask because I chair the Cardiff Real Living Wage Steering Group, so it might be worth engaging with that group just to make sure that we're not duplicating effort, and actually there may be a conversation about having a single steering group potentially as well. So if we can just have those conversations, it'd be really helpful.
Thank you, Councillor.
That's noted. Do we have any more hands? I can't see any.
Sure.
No.
So we have one recommendation to approve the report. Do I have a mover?
Move the report, Chair.
Have a seconder. Thank you. Could I have a show of hands, please? I think that's carried. Okay, item 11, MIPIM 2025 report. That's back to you, Colin.
Thank you, Chair. So the report we bring in front of you here is a follow-up to a recent report where we set forward our plans for MIPIM 2025. And indeed, we wanted to come back and give you a sense of our objectives and KPIs and how we've done against those, and also a bit of the forward view. So from paragraph 3 onwards, we look at the inward investment wider context. I think that we can all agree that this is a critical driver of economic growth for us as a region, for many regions around the UK. And it's central to unlocking our full potential and position ourselves as a competitive force. So for CCR to compete effectively, we recognise that we need to sharpen our regional offer. We need to understand what investor expectations are, and also to have a series of projects which are investable, some of which might be shovel ready, some of which might have a longer tail, but that's the part of the purpose and driver for this. So in terms of MIPIM itself, paragraph 4 onwards, you see that we've mentioned this before, but it is the key international property and investment convention. So it's held every year since 1990, now in its 34th year, and close to 25,000 visitors each year from 126 countries. This was the first year that Cardiff Capital Region led, building on the great work of colleagues in Cardiff Council. And really our key drivers for MIPIM came down to alignment with our strategic goals, particularly around infrastructure and transport investment, for example, supporting our business partners. It's a really critical aspect of this, and we'll come on to that in a moment. And also place promotion for CCR, not just to the investment community, but to wider communities, nationally and internationally. The three themes that we took forward for MIPIM were, again, sustainability, transport infrastructure, and digital infrastructure. And we worked with 22 private sector organisations as partners for the event. This is a really critical aspect of MIPIM. Our private sector partners from across the region, they offer financial contributions, yes, that help us deliver the event, but they also demonstrate the strength of the region. And they also use that attendance with CCR as a means to drive further investment opportunities. So they're a critical part, and we work really hard, the team work really hard to ensure that they're engaged. Of course, MIPIM has a focus on very high value investments and stronger outcomes. So if we looked at, for example, Cardiff Central Square investment discussions, those commenced at MIPIM through colleagues at Cardiff Council. Likewise, there was the Kyle investment in Cardiff announced recently, north of £10 million. Again, that was at MIPIM, but that was in 2022, the conversation and the meeting first took place. So it gives you a sense of how long those take. So moving on to paragraph 5 onwards, the objectives and the KPIs that we set. This is the first year that we set these goals because being accountable, we have to understand the short, the medium, and the longer term goals that, to help us understand if we are making an impact through this kind of activity. We want to understand how we raise awareness of the region, how we build relationships with potential investors, but ultimately in the long term, how we secure investment. So you'll find 2 tables in there where we outline how we've performed against those. In terms of our coverage and our exposure, we achieved those goals. That was very satisfactory. We reached a wide audience. We engaged with multiple journalists and publications. We had 150 targeted emails went out, 234 engagements were captured by the team while in attendance, and we followed that up with 75 potential investors. But I think importantly, this was also a time for us to learn, so we needed to understand what meaningful metrics were. I would want to highlight as well that, there have already been a series of meetings since MIPIM, and while we can't go into details for commercial sensitivity, these have been around about property acquisitions in West and Central Cardiff, specific inquiries related to Cardiff Parkway, 5 investor meetings representing significant funds, including pension funds, investment opportunities around about specific parts of the region, such as Newport, and build-to-rent investor meetings. So there's been a lot of activity since then, and that has a significant, if you like, investment potential. So finally, paragraph 6 onwards, we look at the review of MIPIM and the inward investment function for CCR. We recognise here that we need to take an approach to this which is sustainable in the long term. We want to move to, as we outline in paragraph 7 onwards, a 3-year events and sponsorship plan. And likewise, an updated marketing and communications plan to support that. That's a critical aspect of it. But we'll come forward with a case to that end in July. The financial considerations are set out in section 8. So the overall MIPIM cost £335,000 to deliver. Almost 50% of that was underwritten from private sector partners. And there was a net additional cost of £91,000 for us to deliver MIPIM in 2025. So with that, Chair, in paragraph 2, there are recommendations. The CJC note the performance made against the objectives and key performance indicators, and also the forward view on attendance at future events and the forthcoming strategy.
Thank you, Colin. Do I have any comments or observations from the floor? Sean?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to move the report and the recommendations, just to say that it highlights, the absolute importance of showcasing the region and showing what a forward-thinking and innovative region we are, and we need to be showcasing that on the world stage to get those investments coming in. So I'm very happy to move the report, Chair.
Can't see anyone online. I think this was it was my first year in going, but I think it was also the first year in which we were very strategic and focused about what we needed to do, who we needed to see, the connections we'd need to make. Certainly from talking to our private sector partners who had been in previous years, they noticed the difference. They also really valued the sense that it was team CCR going out to MIPIM, making their presence felt. I think we all noted that in future years, our strategic engagement with the Welsh Government, but also other regions within Wales around MIPIM is going to be not only beneficial in terms of our presence and how we engage as a nation in the region, but also more likely to leverage in different kinds of partnerships that we can then build on in future. So Sean has already moved. Do I have a seconder? It is only for noting, so I didn't even know how to do that. I'll move us on to item 12, which is the annual letter of the chair of the Standards Committee, who I believe is not with us today. It is just for noting, it is in your pack. The next item is the annual letter of the chair of the Governance and Audit Subcommittee, Alan Davis, who I believe is here today. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Do you want to say anything with regards to your letter?
I think the only observation I'll make is the first year we found our feet and we've got some thoughts on how things are going to move forward. So I think we've made a good start. There's a very good team of lay members that have joined the committee now. We have the right strength, and I think we'll have a better year next year than we've had last year, even though last year wasn't bad.
Thank you very much, Alan. With regard to both item 12 and item 13, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank both chairs for setting up the committees. It was a large part of our lift and shift to get these governance agents in place. It's a transition year. It's always going to be challenging, but I think the way it went through and the way it was chaired has been profoundly helpful. I would also like to extend our thanks to every member of both committees for the work they're doing on behalf of the region. We now come to the exempt part of the...
Stopping the live stream, Chair.
Okay. So we say goodbye to Julian at this point, don't we? You may have already left.